What if I told you the biggest franchise in the world didn't collapse overnight? It slowly, quietly, fell apart right in front of us, because not too long ago, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wasn't just successful, it was unstoppable. Every release felt like an event, every character felt important, and every story led somewhere. This was the universe built under the vision of Kevin Feige, a man many fans once believed could do no wrong. From the Avengers to Avengers Endgame, the MCU didn't just dominate the box office, it rewrote Hollywood's entire playbook. But then, something changed, and that change had a name. Phase 4. At first, people were excited. After the emotional ending of Endgame, fans were ready for something new. New heroes, new stories, a new direction. It started with WandaVision, and for a moment it felt like Marvel still had it. The mystery, the emotion, the creativity, it was different, it was bold, and it worked. But what came next? That's where everything started to fall apart, because instead of building one clear story, the MCU began to scatter. Projects kept coming, shows, movies, specials, one after another, and slowly, fans started to feel it. Not excitement, exhaustion. Because keeping up with the MCU no longer felt like entertainment. It felt like homework. And that's when the cracks became impossible to ignore. Take Black Widow, for example, a character fans had loved for years, finally getting her solo movie. But there was one problem. It came too late. The emotional weight was gone. The story felt disconnected, and instead of moving the universe forward, it felt like looking back at something that had already ended. Then came Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. A rare moment of hope, a fresh character, a compelling story, a strong emotional core. For a brief second, it felt like Marvel remembered what made it great, but that moment didn't last, because soon after came one of the biggest disappointments in the franchise. Thor: Love and Thunder. This was supposed to be massive, directed by Taika Waititi, starring Chris Hemsworth and featuring Christian Bale as the villain. On paper, it had everything, but when audiences finally watched it, something felt off. The tone was chaotic, the jokes never stopped, and the emotional depth that once defined Thor was nowhere to be found. This wasn't the same character who had lost everything. This felt like a parody, and fans noticed. They didn't just criticize it, they started losing trust. Then things got worse, because it wasn't just one film, it became a pattern. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, turned into one of the most divisive shows Marvel had ever released. Moon Knight started strong, but couldn't stick the landing. Eternals tried to go bigger than ever, but left audiences confused and disconnected. And then, the multiverse, a concept full of potential, but instead of clarity, it brought chaos. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was meant to expand the universe. Instead, it raised more questions than answers. There was no clear direction, no central story, just pieces, scattered everywhere, and fans started asking the same question. Where is this all going? Because before, everything led to something. Now, nothing. Felt connected, and behind the scenes, things weren't getting any better, because one of the biggest pillars of Marvel's future was falling apart. Jonathan Majors, the actor chosen to play Kang, the next major villain of the MCU. He was supposed to be the next Thanos, the next big threat, the one tying everything together. But after serious real-world controversy, Marvel made a decision. They let him go, and just like that, the future of the MCU became even more uncertain, because now, they didn't just lose direction, they lost their destination, and fans could feel it. The reactions changed, the excitement faded, the conversations turned negative. What was once hype became doubt. Even the media started questioning things. Was the MCU losing its magic? Had it become too big, too fast, or had it simply forgotten what made people care in the first place? Because at its core, the problem wasn't just bad movies, it was something deeper. Oversaturation, too much content, too little purpose. Marvel went from carefully crafting stories to mass producing them, and audiences noticed the difference. They stopped rushing to theaters, box office numbers dropped, shows struggled to maintain attention, and for the first time in years, the MCU felt vulnerable. But here's what makes this story even more interesting, because despite all the criticism, there were still moments of greatness. Spider-Man: No Way Home proved that Marvel could still create magic. Bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield wasn't just nostalgia, it was emotional storytelling done right. It gave closure, it gave meaning, and it reminded fans why they fell in love with these characters. Then came Guardians of the Galaxy, Vol. 3, a film that showed Marvel still had heart, still had depth, still had the ability to tell a powerful story. But here's the problem: these moments became the exception, not the rule, and that's a dangerous place for any franchise to be, because once consistency is gone, trust follows, and once trust is gone, winning it back becomes nearly impossible. Now, the MCU stands at a crossroads. Phase 4 is over, the damage has been done, but the future is still unwritten, because upcoming projects have more pressure than ever before. They don't just need to succeed, they need to fix everything. They need to bring back excitement, bring back trust, bring back purpose, because if they don't, this could be the beginning of the end, not with a bang, but with a slow fade, the same way it started, quietly, subtly, until one day, people just stopped caring. And maybe that's the real story here. Not that the MCU failed, but that it forgot what made it great: the characters, the emotion, the journey, because without those, even the biggest universe in the world can feel empty. And now the question isn't whether Marvel can make another hit, it's whether they can make people believe again, because this time, they don't just need a movie, they need a comeback, and if they get it wrong again, there might not be another chance.